Hi, good morning. Another day, another video. It's Tony from Safe Haven, as you already know. And before we dive in, I want you to click like, subscribe, and share this video with two people, two friends. Basically, today I wanted to discuss about grief and specifically what narc abuse victims grieve when we end a relationship or a relationship with us has ended. I think this was brought about by the fact that, in the last week we've had two major celebrity deaths. We had Chadwick Boseman of Black Panther fame, and we had Eric Murillo, DJ Eric Murillo, who passed away. And, we get to talk about grief, we get to talk about loss, we get to talk about or discuss that sadness that we feel. And I felt it was a good time to discuss what happens or what are the things that we are specifically grieving. The reason why, and specifically the narcissistic relationships, the reason why dealing with the aftermath of them and dealing with the pain of these relationships being terminated is different than what you get with other regular relationships is because there's multiple things that you lose all at once. And specifically, we're going to get into 10 of those things. The first thing that we grieve is our loss of time and effort in a relationship. The reason why we grieve that is because we realize that this person that we were in a relationship with, A, is never going to change, B, never truly loved us, C, never really saw us for who we are, and D, never appreciated any of the effort that we put into the relationship. Now, yes, no one is 100% at fault for a relationship being destroyed. No one is. However, you're, as an empath in your relationship with a narc, you are usually doing all the heavy lifting in the relationship. You're the one that is being faithful, you're the one that's being honest, you're the one that's being ethical, you're the one that's being upright. Even if you slipped up a couple of times, because we all have, but generally speaking, if you look at the pie chart, right, of the relationship, the one who's doing most of the work is probably you. So you are grieving the loss of time and effort because you're the one that's been putting in the most of the work into relationship. The other individual has just been taking from you consistently. And it gets to the point that it doesn't matter how long you've been with this person, whether it's for 2 months, 3 months, 3 years, 30 years, there's still the fact that you lost a lot of time being with this person. And when you look back and you're like, man, I could have done this, I could have done that, I sacrificed a lot for this person just for them to do this, you deal with anger, resentment, and you deal with grief. Because time, which is the most valuable resource that anyone has, can never be gotten back. And that's a painful realization to come to, but nonetheless, it's the truth. The next thing that we grieve is our vision of the future. Typically, you don't go into a relationship with an individual just to be like, I'm just going to be with this person for 2 weeks and then I'm going to dump them afterwards, right? We go into a relationship with the understanding or with the hope that this is a person that we're going to be with for a long time. Now, of course, in marriage, the vow is to death do us part. And if you're not married, you may be looking to do this for, let's say, I don't know, next 10, 20, 30 years, right? Like that's your plan. And all of a sudden they torpedo it, right? They discard you, or you have to discard them, or you're tired of the constant lying and cheating, or all these things. And you sit there and you realize that the future that you were going to have with this person is never going to be. Even if they were to come back and say, "I'm sorry, I love you, I'm gonna do this and that for you," it ain't gonna work. It's not gonna happen. So you're going to grieve that. Um, the hopes, the dreams, realizing that they died the moment that you told this person, "I'm done with this," or they told you, "I'm done with you." That's a big thing to grieve, right? It's necessary. You've got to hold space for it, but it's there. The hand in hand with that, what we grieve also is an understanding of the past. What do I mean by that is when you look back at your relationship and you look back at the good times, look at the happy moments, you look at the bad times, all this other stuff, you realize that what you thought was really happy times was just them mirroring you, or them looking for supply from you, or them looking to get something from you, or looking to make somebody else jealous, right? A lot of the times they're making these happy memories with you, or posting you on their Facebook, or all this stuff. It's not even for you. It's to get a reaction and resources from somebody else. It's to make either somebody else jealous, or to make someone else envy them, or whatever the case may be. So now you are looking back at all the positive things and all the negative things as well. And you're like, holy cow, I am now starting to see that what I thought was the truth is actually not the truth. What I'm starting to see is that the good times were just, were not real, and the bad times were very real, and they had more sinister undertones to them. So now you're having to reevaluate everything in your past. You're having to look at everything that pops up in your Facebook feed, like memories and all that, and realize this was all phony baloney. When you're in that state and you're coming out, it's like you're coming out of the matrix. You're waking up from a dream, right? You ever have one of those good dreams and it's going well? You just won a lottery ticket, or you started dating this amazingly attractive person, and then you wake up and you're by yourself, you're broke, you got to go into work, you know what I mean? You're like, dang, right? Like, that's painful. That's a painful thing to undergo, and that's something we have to grieve. The next thing that we are going to have to grieve is the losing the hope that our narcissistic ex is going to get better. Let me tell you one thing, and if you look at anybody else's YouTube, blog, Twitter, all this, these people do not change. If you look at anybody's YouTube, blog, Twitter, whatever, you'll see, and you'll read this up, that these people, like narcissistic people, don't change. They just change the people in their story. It's the same movie, just different characters. Okay. And of course, this is someone that we love. This is someone that we care about, and we would love for them to change. We would love for them to wake up one day and be like, gosh darn it, I'm a narc. I need to get help. I need to start thinking about other people. This, that, and the third. It ain't gonna happen, buddy. And when we understand that this is never gonna happen, this is never going to, there's no happy reunion, there's no true epiphany. There's fake epiphanies. There's them coming around and not taking responsibility, not truly apologizing, just trying to get some supply or resource from you. That's them coming around. That's the epiphany you get, but never a truly repentant confession like, wow, I was wrong, I messed up, I'm willing to do everything I can to fix this and to prove to you that I am with you 100%. You're never going to get that. And knowing that this person is never going to change and never going to improve really will mess you up. Of course, you got to work through that grief. You got to work through that process. You got to work through that understanding, but it's going to happen and you're going to grieve it. Simple as that. Now, the next thing we grieve the loss of is of our identity. A lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, we become enmeshed with this individual, especially if their abuse has caused us to start to lower and dim our flame and just constantly feed our fuel to them, right? And I see this with a lot of male narc victims, narc abuse victims. I was one of those. It's like I poured all my energy into this person, into this relationship, into this family, and to have it blow up in my face, it's like, who am I? What do I do? Who? I'm scared. I'm. You know what I mean? And you have to define your own identity. But you now no longer have that identity as I'm with this person. I am Mr. So-and-so. I'm Mrs. So-and-so. I am, their cheerleader. I am their confidant. I am their helpmeet. I am their leader. Like, you have to look at it like, I'm me. I'm no longer no longer a part of their life. I'm no longer part of their goals. Their goals and their visions are no longer a part of mine. And coming to that, it's, there's relief, but then there's also grief, because especially if you took pride in that and you took pride in building this other person up, you took pride in lowering your flame to boil their pot, right? Or sending your gas to boil their pot, and they out here betrayed you. That's a different kind of pain, right? You're gonna grieve that. The next thing we're going to lose is, and this goes hand in hand with identity, is that we're more likely than not going to lose mutuals, right? Mutual friends, family members who are cool with us, we're going to have to be like, adios, right? Because we don't want these individuals to become flying monkeys. What are flying monkeys? Flying monkeys are those people who are very easily manipulated into either delivering messages for you or spying on you and relaying the information back to your narcissistic ex, right? If you're trying to move forward in life, you're trying to heal up, you don't want these kinds of individuals around. Not only that, a lot of times the ex already has these people pretty much either, I guess you could say, trained or pretty much okay with the fact that they're on their team, right? These mutuals, consider this, these mutuals are generally always going to take your narc ex's side. Unless, of course, they saw some really off-the-wall stuff. But generally, narcs abuse in silence and secret, okay? They're never going to say, I messed up and I cheated and I lied and I stole time, money, and resources from a good person, and this person asked me to leave the relationship. They're never going to say that. So you have to understand, any mutuals these people have are going to see you as the problem, okay? And generally speaking, the narc has already gone, gotten a new supply, got the new boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the case may be, and brought it to these mutuals and said, hear ye, this is the new person I'm with. This is the best thing that ever happened to me. I want you to pour your time and energy into this person, right? You're gonna lose those mutuals, okay? Even those who say, oh, I don't have any horses in this race or whatever, look, generally speaking, if they're mutual friends of you and this person, consider them on the other person's team as it is, unless they show and prove otherwise. But you still have to grieve that loss, because now you got to make new friends. Now you got to make new connections, right? And that sucks, but it is what it is, right? Now, you're in line with that, you're going to, of course, you have to grieve the loss of trust in your narc ex, right? You now understand that narcissistic individuals do not work on the same playbook as you. They are only doing things for resources and reactions, even if they're doing what's considered right or honorable. It's to get praise, it's to get money, it's to get people on their side, especially if they're smearing you. It's for that. It's never coming from a genuine place, right? So you have to understand that the person you're now talking to, that you're, if you have kids together and you have to talk to them, you can never trust them, right? You always have to think in your mind, like, okay, what's this person trying to say or do? What's their real game plan? And generally speaking, this is probably someone you confided in. This is probably someone who you would never think would do this to you, and now here they are. So you lost that trust in them. That's a big blow, okay, that you have to grieve. And that goes hand in hand with losing the trust in ourselves, right? Understand this. When you get with a narcissistic individual, in the beginning, there's usually some red flags that are waving, right? And there's a little small voice in your head. In fact, I put a video saying, don't ignore your inner voice, because when you do, you always get into trouble, right? Your inner voice probably said something ain't right. Something's wrong. This person's manipulating you. This person's trying to get you to do something you don't want to do. This person's trying to move a little too quickly. This person is trying to make you feel afraid of losing them, even though you only dated for a couple of weeks. This person is trying to trap you in with a pregnancy. This person is trying to trap you in financially. This person is trying to trap you in emotionally, legally, whatever. There's that voice, right? And what happens is when we ignore it, and we go on about our daily lives, and then we hit a wall, and this person reveals who they are, and they hurt us, they discard us, they smear us, all this other stuff. Now we're looking at ourselves like, man, I thought you had this figured out. You did in the beginning. Your inner voice was tweet, 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 tweet. Hey, don't do that. Tony, don't do that. Jamie, don't do that. Okay, Ashley, don't do that, right? That was in your mind, but you tuned it out, and now you're in a waddle of trouble, and you're like, oh crap, what do I do? So you lose that trust in yourself, which you can always rebuild. The way you rebuild trust in yourself, listen to your inner voice, follow your gut, learn to be more in tune with it, in tune with your vibe, in tune with your feeling. A lot of times the universe will whisper in your ear. Some people say it's God, some people say it's Holy Spirit, Allah, whatever the case may be. But the universe will whisper gently, hey, watch out. And it's usually the voice of your own self talking to you. Hey, something ain't right. Build trust in yourself by listening to your inner voice. But you gotta have to go through the grief of the loss of trust in yourself. You see what I'm saying? You stopped trusting yourself. You thought you had it all figured out, and you messed up, and you got to come to terms with that. Okay. The next thing is that you're going to lose, and you have to grieve, is resources. Right. This goes hand in hand with losing mutuals, losing resources. Sometimes we lose. Okay, we lose money. We lose time, obviously. Sometimes we lose our health. We let our health go. Sometimes our, stress, PTSD, CPTSD, all this other stuff starts affecting us. Our bodies start to break down. We're losing jobs because we're so depressed that we can't even function at our job. We have to grieve those losses. Those are peripheral losses, right? That we gotta grieve. Some of those things we can bounce back. You can get your health back on track. You can get a new, better paying job. You can, even in a recession, pandemic, whatever. You can do it, absolutely. But you gotta grieve that loss. Okay, you gotta process it, and it doesn't have to take years to grieve. It could take a day, a weekend, even a few hours. But you gotta grieve. You gotta feel it. You gotta push through that. And lastly. And this is a big one. This is the biggest loss that we get when we're ending relationships with narcs. And I have a nice little cat hair on my black shirt. The biggest thing that we lose is our innocence. What I mean by that, our innocence can be defined as when we go into a relationship with a narc, wide-eyed or doughy-eyed and was it doughy-eyed and dovetailed? Something like that, right? We go in basically with stars in our eyes and we're thinking, oh, this is the one, this is awesome. And we go through the love bombing phase, we're like, oh my God, this person is amazing, she's perfect, he's perfect. And then boom, we go through the devalue and then the discard. And then we do all this research and we realize, A, there are a lot of narcs out there. B, you ain't the only one that's going through this. And C, this stuff is painful. All of a sudden, we now have this jaded view towards life. You know, I'm afraid to date again. I'm afraid to put myself out there again. I'm afraid to let people close to me again. If you had a narc family member and a narc ex-partner and you combine those forces together, man, you really don't want to be bothered with people, right? And that's okay too, especially if you're healing up and you're defining yourself and you're learning who you are and blah, blah, blah. It's totally okay to say, you know what, I'm putting a pause on people. But here's the thing, we can actually calcify ourselves and stay in this shell and say, I don't ever want to get close to another person ever again. And again, in a way, there's good and bad about that, right? Especially with men, there's something called like red pill or whatever, which, there's a basic thinking that men shouldn't really get themselves too emotionally invested in a woman they're with, which, hey, it is what it is, right? Same thing with women. Like, I've seen the dating coaches and all that. I've heard the stories. There comes a time in which you do have to be wiser about how you interact with people. And you got to be more in tune with the red flags. And you got to be willing to pop the e-brake or the ejecto seat and get these people out your life the moment they start showing these signs to you. But losing that innocence, losing that never being able or taking a very long time to trust another person in an intimate, close way like that again, it's big. It's really big. And there are a lot of people who don't ever grow out of that. They get hurt, they get trashed, and they stay calcified, bitter, arm's length with everything and everyone because they don't ever want to get hurt again like the way they were with this narc ex, right? The loss of innocence, that innocence is gone. I gotta tell you, you're never, ever, ever gonna get back to who you were before. And you shouldn't want to be honest with you. Remember, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? And this is part of growth. It's sort of like when you have a forest fire, right? The forest fire burns off a lot of the dead trees and even some of the healthy trees and all that stuff, right? And it's just like scorches the earth. But then what happens? The ash and everything gets into the ground and the nutrients prompt new growth, more fertile growth, okay? It's the same thing in life, right? This is a forest fire that happened. You were with a narcissistic ex and they did something, they hurt you, whatever the case may be. Well, now you can use this pain, this burning fire to rebuild yourself into someone much better, 10x, that you would have had the incentive to build yourself into had they not done what they did. Now, I'm not excusing what they did. I'm not excusing the pain. I'm just saying this is how we got to frame it in our mind. But the most important thing is you're never going to go back to who you were before you met them. Never. Okay? You're going to be wiser. You're going to be smarter. You're going to understand dynamics better. You're never going to be that dope. Oh, I don't know. She says she loves me. He says he loves me. Nah, you're going to be testing people. You're going to be saying, all right, let me see the receipts. You say you this, you say you that. Show me. Prove it to me. Right? So with that being said, those are the 10 things that we grieve. I hope this video helps somebody out there. I know I'm talking to somebody who's probably doesn't understand, like, why do I feel so damn sad? Why is it so hard for me to function? And the reason why I'm saying this is because I went through it. right? I'm not telling y'all nothing I didn't see or experience. I had a narcissistic ex spouse. I had the narcissistic ex girlfriend. Okay, I, this ain't no rodeo for me. I didn't learn everything I needed to learn the first time around, which is why I got burned the second time around, and burned much harder. But I'm smarter now, and I'm like, okay, let's look at this, right? But you know what? It is what it is, right? I still go through cycles of grief. There are times in which it's like, oh my God. Times in which it's so bad you don't even want to get out of bed. And there are times in which it's like, push through it, right? You're not alone. That's the thing. You're not alone. There's so many of us who have gone through this in both genders, male and female. So many of us. Okay? You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be all right. You're gonna get through this. You're gonna heal up. You're gonna push through this. Doesn't matter where you are today. Look to the future. You're gonna be fine. Trust me. Trust me. All right? Remember, in life, you're either going through it or you're growing through it. And I hope this video helps you to grow through it. Be safe, my friends. Ciao.